Welcome back to Hardball. Drip, drip, drip. What's with all this leaking during the first year of the Obama administration? What's doing it? Who's doing it? And what do they got to gain? Look at what Defense Secretary Robert Gates told reporters just yesterday regarding the decision-making process on Afghanistan. Quote, I have been appalled by the amount of leaking that's been going on in this process. Mr. Gates said he added that he thought a lot of different places are leaking and that he was confident that the Department of Defense is not one of them. Then he made a threat. And frankly, if I found out with high confidence anybody who was leaking in this Department of Defense, who that would probably be a career ender. David Corn is the Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones Magazine, and Susan Page is the Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. I don't know which one of you likes leaks better, but I never met a journalist who didn't need leaks because leaks are the way we live. Susan.
I am totally in favor of leaks, especially in USA Today.
Right. Well, let's talk about the method. It's very clear during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Jack Kennedy only let a few people be an ex-com, that executive committee, because he didn't want anything out. He even said he had a cold. He did everything he could to keep quiet what was going on. With this administration, we know where Mullen stands. We know where Gates stands. We know where Biden stands. We know where the current ambassador stands. We know where the field commander stands.
Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense.
We know Hillary Clinton's position. Why do we know everything?
Well, I think for one thing, this debate's gone on for a while. And for another, there's a sense the president hasn't made up his mind. So that means there is a certain strategy for all the players to get their positions
out. Okay, why did we hear just the other day that the current ambassador, former military commander over there, Carl Eikenberry, believes that a very small footprint makes sense. Don't increase the troop level.
I think
who does that benefit?
Well, I think it benefits the Biden, what we now call the Biden camp, which is people who want fewer troops to go over there. It's a counterweight.
But he works for Hillary Clinton. Isn't that risky of him to leak his position?
Well, but he has a long-standing position of being skeptical about sending more U.S. troops there. And you've got McChrystal out there with a public position that puts Obama in something of a box by calling for a lot of additional.
Okay, the first leak out the door was McChrystal's.
Yes.
Who leaked McChrystal's position? McChrystal?
It could well be.
The Hawkins position.
It could well be that he did that. It came to Bob Woodward at the Washington Post. And I'm in favor of leaks, not just because it's good for journalism. I think we're seeing a great debate. I think
but it makes the president look like he's dithering.
I don't know. Well, I don't think so. And I think the leak that came out this week, the Eikenberry memos, were indeed a very important counterbalance, because up to now the debate had really been framed over how many more troops will Obama send in, a small amount or do the full 40,000 from McChrystal. Eikenberry, who's the ambassador there and a former commander of the troops, is saying, I don't think we need any more troops.
Okay, what I found. Let me just try my analysis.
But the public needs to know that, Chris, that there's a range.
You make my point. If you like the president, if you're one of the top people around him, Rahm Emanuel, anybody around him, Axelrod, anybody really is serving the president's interest, would it not be in your interest to leak the fact that one of the people over there was military commander recently, disagrees 180 with McChrystal,
right, and
therefore the president would be reasonable to either reject McChrystal or meet him halfway? In other words, that would make sense.
You know, it gives the president a little bit more running room. I'll tell you,
so in other words, this leak is pro-Obama.
Well, this leak is pro a smaller deployment.
But therefore,
and we know that Obama has some reservations about the big McChrystal deployment, and so it makes it more possible for him to go in other places.
Your sense as a journalist who writes every day for USA Today, which was recently mentioned on this program, as Sarah Palin's perhaps only reading material, which is fine. No, not only she reads the local papers. And by the way, I would have said if I were her, if I were the politician, I read all the local Alaska papers. You got a problem with that? I would just play local politics. What do you see as the battle of leaks here? Who's leaking back and forth? Is it Defense Department leaking? Is it the White House leaking? In your thinking?
Yes, it is. It's the Defense Department. It's the White House. It's the State Department. I mean,
at what level are they leaking?
Well, I think usually the leaks do not take place at the very top level. Usually it's someone a step or two down. Well, they're approved by somebody. They're probably not approved by Barack Obama. I do think there's some risk that he looks a little bit like he's being pulled this way.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, whatever decision he makes is going to trump the process that got to that decision. When he finally makes a decision next week, 2 or 3 weeks, that's what we'll be talking about. And whether he took 8 weeks to do it or 6.5 weeks to do it will disappear. These are sort of phony issues that will go away. And the big thing is how he makes the decision and what the decision position is.
Okay, did he after listening to all this leaks, and everybody watches the show, reads the paper, and they've been watching this, McChrystal says we need 40,000 more troops and we may need 80,000. And then along comes Hillary Clinton. She agrees with her. She's Secretary of State. And then along comes Mullins, who's head of all security, Joint Chiefs, rather. He goes, and then Gates, the Secretary of Defense, seems to agree with him. So now we're getting a sense of the hawkish position, if you will. And then Biden has always been there as the quiet vice president who isn't that quiet, because we know his position, which is fewer troops, right? Right. And then along comes this guy, Carl Eikenberry, who we never heard of this guy before. He's our ambassador to a country where we're basically in a war. You don't think of having an ambassador in a war zone. He's our ambassador. He works for Secretary Clinton, but he says, don't listen to McChrystal. But also, he's raising one of the key issues that has bubbled up in the past few weeks, and that is, what can the U.S. do in a country that's run by a government that's led by a hapless and perhaps corrupt figure? And his brother's the biggest drug czar in the country. And these questions have been coming up at press briefings. They've been addressed. And now Eikenberry is saying it really matters. Okay, let's go to something that's local. It may not, if you read the papers, one of the top people at the White House, the counsel of the president, Greg Craig, who I really like, a big Obama supporter from day one, a liberal, and a top lawyer in Washington with Williams and Connolly, is leaving the White House today. He issued his letter of resignation. What's that all about? Well, you know, there are lots of different stories coming out. And there were a lot of leaks before this. There were leaks that he was leaving. Now the White House is saying that he only agreed to serve 1 year, and that in October, when he said he would be staying longer, he was lying, in essence, because he didn't want to be seen as a lame duck. Now, some people are tying this to the Gitmo decision. Obama promised to close Gitmo by January 21st. That's obviously not happening. He's been in charge of that, and the speculation has been, because he hasn't found a way to do it, there's been some... Who's the winner here and who's the loser?
Well, he's taken a fall for mishandling of the announcement on
Who's Gitmo. The winner?
Who's Bob the winner? Bob Bauer, yeah.
You got the job. Thank you very much, David Corn. Thank you, Susan Page.